Welcome to the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Brenda. And this is a podcast where we highlight educators who innovate, engage, and inspire through the use of technology. Thank you so much for joining us today for the My Tech Toolbelt podcast. Hi, this is Brenda Argano. Have you been struggling maintaining a connection with your students during remote learning? Imagine a tech tool that works for everyone, from pre-K to PhD and beyond. Not only that, but you have complete flexibility and complete control at the same time. Flipgrid can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be, and there is no right or wrong way of doing it. Join us as we speak with Ann Kozma, who, after 16 years as a first grade teacher, is now the Educator Innovation Lead on Team Flipgrid at Microsoft. So if you've never used Flipgrid, you'll learn so many easy ways to get started. And if you have used Flipgrid, I guarantee you will learn something new in this podcast. In the final 20 minutes of this podcast, Ann demonstrates some of the highlights of Flipgrid. If you want to see the accompanying video, please check out our YouTube channel. Also, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast because you don't want to miss any of the upcoming episodes. Don't forget to check our show notes attached to this episode and on our website, mytechtoolbelt.com, for everything mentioned in this episode. So, without further ado, our interview with Ann Kozma.
Okay, friends, today on the My Tech Toolbelt podcast, we have Ann Kozma from Flipgrid.
Woohoo!
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me on My Tech Toolbelt. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to figure out how to do this for a while, but I'm so happy it finally is coming to fruition.
You were on our short list when we first launched the podcast of people we wanted to talk to. And I think that might have even been before you were with Flipgrid officially. You were on our list of people to reach out to. So I'm so glad that we finally were able to connect. And
I'm glad it's finally happening.
So before we get started, Ann, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of your journey as to where you are today?
Yeah, so I have spent the majority of my career in education. I was a classroom teacher and a teacher on special assignment focusing on technology innovation in Southern California I started in 2001, so a while ago, and loved being in the classroom with my young scholars. I taught first grade and just wanted my young students to build solid academic foundations, but to have fun and to enjoy the discovery and the journey and the adventure that learning is. And very quickly, early on in my career, authentic voice became my why. So empowering my students' authentic voice for authentic audiences sort of was the driving factor in my teaching, and fell in love with being a teacher helping teachers. Also got very involved in leading professional development, helping my colleagues try new things with technology, started doing a lot of PD for my district, got really involved in the Q organization here in California, and just really started enjoying that aspect, being what I call a teacher helping teachers. And Shannon, that's how you and I first got connected in our Leading Edge certification for professional learning leaders program. And I think back on it really was those stepping stones, being in the classroom, becoming a TOSA, being a connected lead learner, and finding myself wanting to help more students by helping more teachers, and took like a giant leap out of the classroom and found myself accepting a position at Microsoft with Team Flipgrid, and love getting to help educators around the world use technology to empower every voice and not only share, showcase, and celebrate it, but also learn how to respect the diverse voices of others too. So it's been a crazy adventure, and I feel like I won the lottery. I love getting to do what I do every day.
I love that story because when you and I first met and got to know each other was in that Leading Edge, but we knew of each other before that through Q.
Yeah.
And I feel like your journey as a teacher helping teachers is really that same journey was mine as well. And that was why I left the classroom. It's why I went into higher education and became the professor and working in the job that I do now, because of that same passion. Is I could impact 20 to 30 kids a year in my classroom, or I can impact 300 students a year through the teachers that I get to work with, right? Or this year, I think we estimate it's over 500 students a year that will be impacting. So we're so blessed to have these positions. So thank you for sharing that story with us. And how long have you been with the Microsoft Flipgrid team?
Yeah, so it's been, I guess I'm coming up on 2.5 years now. Time flies.
Wow, right? Or does it move really slowly? With the last 6 or 7 months has been
it does both,
like
right? It does both.
Hey, I just called 2020 Crazy Town Banana Pants. Like it's just it's been a year, hasn't it?
It has been a year. It has been a year.
So Flipgrid was one of our earliest episodes. So that was probably almost 3 years ago that we had recorded that episode. And so we thought that now things have changed so dramatically, especially this year, that we really wanted to dive deep again into Flipgrid and find out like what's going on within the classrooms and outside of the classrooms. And so I'm so excited, because one of the first things that I heard when the lockdown started happening was #Flipgrid. And that was amazing, because there's a lot of stuff out there you can use. But definitely Flipgrid was the one that was popping up very quickly. So we're very excited to talk about this.
Yeah. And, I think it's this weird time thing for me. It was Friday the 13th in March that the community I was heavily involved in, where I had taught when they called school for hey, we're going distance learning, we're going remote. And we just had Friday the 13th again. And so these like weird bookends of dates, but this incredibly transformative, sprung from global pandemic, but this shift that we've seen, oh my God, I just got goosebumps. Teachers continue to make the world go round. And in the face of crazy, chaotic, unexpected shifts, did incredible things and continue to inspire with the way they empower learning, but keep communities connected. And that's something that was so impactful for me when we saw what started happening in March and April and May. It was educators staying connected. And if you couldn't see each other face to face, oh my God, hearing that they were using Flipgrid to still be able to see their students' faces just gave me, it made me cry every day from all the emotions, But we have a good friend and partner from the Discovery Library, Mike Smith, and he has this phrase, can't cancel community. And that's something that struck me, that Flipgrid allows you to still remain connected via this asynchronous video. And I know asynchronous is sort of like the edgy lingo bingo buzzword that might make people a little frustrated sometimes, but it's a powerful, flexible way to remain in community and to drive forward together in all these creative ways. And yeah, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Teachers make the world go round, and teachers inspire me every single day.
I would agree. Some of the stuff that we're seeing out there is not being celebrated enough. And we talk about that a lot in our little pod of university professors, is that we're not celebrating these guys. And so hopefully this is a way that we can share some of these celebrations of what you're seeing out there and, kind of what I'm seeing out there. So, and one of the things, Brenda said it perfectly. Like, I feel like Flipgrid was one of the most amazing tools that I could not talk enough about as a global ambassador and as an, student voice ambassador. And I feel like it's I use it at the university level. So I actually teach online, always online. So I never really get to meet my students in person. So I've been using Flipgrid at the university level. Something a lot of people don't know. Flipgrid was actually started as a university tool.
Absolutely. It was born out of the University of Minnesota in 2012 when Dr. Charlie Miller was leaving to go on this expedition studying education around the world, but needed a way to stay in touch with his 12 graduate students. And him and a buddy, Brad Hozak, spent 40 hours one weekend and coded the first iteration of Flipgrid. So it literally was created to solve a problem. And the story goes, they forgot to write a line of code to lock it down to the university. And some teaching librarians found it. And what do teachers do? They share what they're passionate about, right? And so they started using it and sharing it. And it just sort of grew out of there. But you're absolutely right. It started in higher ed. And it's so cool to see from pre-K to PhD and beyond, you have complete flexibility with how you use Flipgrid to share your learning. And whether you're in higher ed or you're a young scholar, it's completely flexible and allows those pathways. And I think that's one of the things I'm most obsessed about with Flipgrid.
The same. I couldn't believe, and it still, pains my heart when I hear a high school teacher or a higher ed professor be like, well, that's just for little kids. I see my little kids on that. Like my son is in first grade and he's using that, or kindergarten and they're using that. And I'm like, isn't that great? Isn't that great that the tool that was made for you as a university professor to solve a need that someone had here at this level of higher education also meets the need of your 5-year-old and their teacher? Like, I don't know. I can't name another tool, and I've been in this business a long time, that actually works in that capacity for everyone. Because you don't have, these kiddos, the little ones don't have to know how to read. They don't have to know how to write. They only have to know how to speak and hit the button. Now it's the kind of the red record button there. But the reality is that there is no barrier to entry here other than the fact that you need to be able to click that button. And we know that babies can click those buttons on their moms and dads' cell phones. So I really don't see any barrier here. And so that's what's so amazing about this tool.
Well, I love just a thought that you make me have saying that. My good friend and colleague, Jornay Armand, says, if you can think it, you can Flipgrid it. And honestly, you can. And I love to say to folks, it can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be. And there is no right or wrong way to do it, but just hit that button and start recording.
I love it. It's such a powerful tool. And kids could use it to podcast. I mean, there's so many. We're going to talk a little bit about some tips that I think, my guess is when I've been sharing Flipgrid, most teachers don't know about. And so you're going to share some of those tips with us today. There's going to be a bonus on our YouTube channel, the show and tell of this. So make sure you visit our YouTube channel after you listen to this episode. But, you said something early on, Ann, that's really means something to me. And you said it was a community connector, Flipgrid being a community connector. And I think what it always was, but how have you, education innovators, kind of talking about this with the people that you're working with? How are you guys sharing that communication piece with other teachers and getting them to kind of understand how powerful that is?
Yeah. So I mentioned too, teachers love to talk about something they're passionate about. So we say we have the loudest, raddest, most passionate community of educators on the planet who share. And you can go to social media. You could cruise that flipgridforall hashtag on Twitter and see idea after idea, best practices, resources. I mean, stories of transformation, not only for teaching and learning. And I have a few tweets open in front of me right now that I look at. And for example, ways to increase student engagement, whether it's a student-led activity, students becoming teachers and creating a tutorial, or using their higher academic vocabulary to explain a skill or concept, providing peer-to-peer feedback, engaging in some kind of project-based learning, or doing a virtual gallery showcase of something that they've done. The Flipgrid camera is full of incredible features, fun things like frames and filters to kind of change the theme and tone. But there's a ton of power in a text box. And that could be a paragraph on screen. It could be, diagramming something on the screen as well, or annotating over a photograph. There's a drawing and annotating tool and a board feature. So, as a former first grade teacher, I think about steps to solve an equation, but I've seen people draw out for assessment purposes, speed and velocity and what buoyancy looks like. And I mean, incredible examples, but the the things that we see educators sharing out are just so powerful, whether it's students going on the screen and proving their understanding of a concept, teachers using the tool to create instructional videos. But when I think about staying connected as a community, whether you're remote, whether you're hybrid, face-to-face, especially now, staying connected really matters, right? If we can't be together face-to-face, if what was traditional, and I'm saying that with air quotes, traditional school now looks a little bit different, you definitely want to continue to engage students, to continue to motivate them to, participate in a process. So whether you're giving them freedom and flexibility to share, seeing somebody's face on video and hearing their voice is that human connection. And it's so powerful. A few just like ideas that come to mind that are adjacent to the academic, but are just purely connection. We saw Joe Merrill tweet about a Flipgrid playground where his students can just go and share or tell a joke or share something, right? You see folks doing virtual help desks or middle school teachers who are doing advisory periods simply to check in with students. I love that coaches and specialists can share celebrations, even in a remote situation. What's an epic win from your week? So like that social emotional learning factor is something that really comes to mind when I think about, aside from academic purposes, how do people continue to foster community on Flipgrid?
That's huge. I mean, I think that one of the things that we're seeing is this kind of, I would say sense of, I don't want to say depression, but like lack of connection, lack of getting out of the homes. And for some students who are, I know here in California, we have some areas that are hybrid. We have some areas that have been able to go back in person. And we have some areas like here in Los Angeles where we're still pretty locked down with the exception of some waivers. And the connection that we're seeing with the kiddos is mirrored in the teachers. So that's actually something that I'm thinking about a lot right now, is that when our kiddos are in these areas that they may not be safe, or they're just alone, or they're with a small group of siblings or whatever, the teachers are feeling that times however many students are in their class, and they're taking that on, and they're also, not only are they feeling their own feelings, but they're feeling kind of those other people, their feelings for their students that they can't help. Normally when there's a kid in your class, you can sit with them and connect with them. And I feel like Flipgrid is a way that you can do a one-on-one check-in kind of with each. And so there's another thing I think teachers don't know is you can create where not everybody can see those videos. They're private. They're just between the student and the teacher, right? Using the moderation feature.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because if it's related to, assessment or a check-in, a virtual help desk, a social emotional learning, all teachers need to do when they're creating that topic is turn on video moderation. And that will keep everything private to the educator. You can then engage with it, respond to the student, etc., but it will not be publicly visible to others. So, I mean, I've heard stories of teachers creating that one-on-one space for a student to turn in their work. And it's just one tool they can use to personalize or customize the way they create their topics for their learning community. And educators always remain in control of that because they're the ones that create accounts. Students don't create the Flipgrid accounts. So the teacher has full access to even personalizing. Do you want to use text comments? Do you want to use video comments only? Do you want to turn off the camera effects? Do you want to enable all of these things? It's just the ways that educators can personalize their topic.
I love it. Brenda, do you have any?
Well, I just want to take a step back. So when you first installed Flipgrid, what are some things that teachers can do in the very beginning of trying this out?
So This is a great opportunity to talk about how simple it can be to get started. And educators can sign up for free at flipgrid.com, and they just create their quick account. And as soon as they are in their account, they'll notice a few things across the top. These are all of the features built into Flipgrid. And within discussion, I think of that as home base for me. That's where I create my groups and I add my topics. There is a database of ready-to-use content called the Discovery Library, and we can get into that in a moment. But there's all kinds of tools just built into the Flipgrid camera. Flipgrid Shorts is your own creative space as an educator, not related to a group or topic, but it's the same exact creative camera features available in Flipgrid, but your own space to create. Educators create instructional videos there. We see administrators doing weekly newsletters. I use it to create my own graphics that I want to share out, instructional videos, shout outs, positive videos, reinforcements, tons of possibilities. But it's as simple as creating a topic. And a topic is simply a discussion. What if it's, hey, we're getting ready to go back to school. I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell me your name. How do you pronounce it? What's special about your name? So personalizing and individualizing that experience. We have this whole database I mentioned called Discovery, right? So I love sharing this as a way for teachers to go and find topics or find inspiration if they're not ready to begin creating their own topics. And Discovery has over 30,000 ready-to-use topics, not only from educators around the world sharing topics, but featured partners like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Minecraft EDU, Code.org, Wonderopolis. I'm obsessed with all of these partners, and this is the bonus. We're going to do a video of this later for your YouTube channel that folks can check out. But I mean, Discovery Education is brand new. ADL Education, Breakout EDU is in there, Nearpod, Whirly EDU, Celebrating Music. Folks like I Can Help, Turning Green, the News Literacy Project, Adobe for EDU just created their page in there and have these insanely amazing collections, seeking perspective, constructing ideas, digging into the ISTE standards for students on digital literacy. So it sometimes might feel overwhelming for folks who are new to a tool to be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to use it. And I love to say, push all the buttons and play to learn, because Flipgrid is a simple tool that literally create a topic, give it a name, write a quick little prompt, which is basically the question you're asking somebody to respond to, and choose who you want to share it with, right? And then share it with them and they click that record button and add a response. But it can get as sophisticated as you want, whether you're responding to conversations about, your identity, or doing, sharing authentic research, documenting growth over time, sharing academic goals and reflections for a period of time at school, or even talking about what is remote learning like for you. There really is no right or wrong way, Brenda. So I would definitely tell people, check out some of the getting started resources that we have available, because with a few button clicks, you'll have your first topic created and shared in 5 minutes.
One of the ones we used right out of the gate for a real basic introduction to Flipgrid with some of our pre-service teachers. And I had the professor who was teaching the course was new to teaching as well. And so I was coaching him as well as helping build. And I said, let's just go grab the what's in my bag prompt right out of the Discovery Library. Yep. And we grabbed that one and we dropped it in so that he could get used to kind of how to set it up and what it would look like. And I tell you, those were some of the most fun videos to watch. We have over 101 students enrolled in that online class. And it's a foundations and online teaching course that these guys are taking. And I love 5 things that the response from the professor was like, they just love chapstick. Like so many of these resource teachers really love chapstick. And I was like, okay, so I go, it's because they're teachers. They want to keep their lips hydrated. It was just fun, right? Like some of these things, going back to that building community, we can definitely get the educational voice and the authentic learning that we can definitely see that. But just something just as basic and fun as like, what would you put in a backpack? What are the 5 things you always keep with you, or something like that, helps you make those connections. I need to think that at least where my son goes to school, they probably won't get to see each other in person at all this year. I'm kind of mentally preparing him and me for that experience. And that has to be, especially when there's new kids, because it's like junior high, or even if it's like kindergarten, these are kids that may never get to see each other in person this year. And these are just kind of fun ways, like you said, Joe Merrill, and this is the Joe Merrill, right? The interactive class Joe Merrill that tweeted earlier about that that kind of Flipgrid playground area that he's created, where they can go in and kind of chat with each other and have those experiences. And those are things that are, you said it, just as important as academic when it comes to this year. I think we really have to be mindful of the non-academic interactions that need to happen. And Flipgrid is an amazing place that both of those things can happen.
I mean, that's a very poignant thing to consider, the non-academic, and how that still just humanizes a shared experience, right? I always told my students, I mean, and this is something I've said for years, I want to disguise the learning. I want it to be hard fun. I want to challenge you to think. I want to challenge you to think outside the box and be creative. And you get to own that journey. It's your journey, and I want to celebrate that. And in this time of remote, hybrid, distance, I mean, even still face-to-face, celebrating that journey is something that's very important for me. And I talked a lot about it with the educators that I worked with. I still talk about it in my PLN when I'm doing PD. To me, it's all about pathways, because we all learn differently, right? And we're all at different steps of the journey. And that, to me, coupled with the flexibility of Flipgrid as an asynchronous tool, is just this brilliant pairing that, hey, you might want to write out a paragraph and have that on screen and really dig into sharing. You might want to dance or sing or create something and share that with us. You might want to create this imaginative scene with all of the emojis at your fingertips inside the Flipgrid camera. That's all pathways to learning, right? And I talked about this with friends a lot, and Shannon, you and I probably have had this conversation before too, about the emotional investment students make in their work. And so it's not that it's disguising the learning, but you're allowing students to own their journey authentically and create. And that shifts not only the motivation, the retention of information, that connection to it. It's this learned experience, this learning journey they're on. And God, I'm all about pathways and providing those pathways for people to be authentically them, no matter where they're at.
And one thing that's really nice, if you're going to compare, say, Flipgrid to Zoom, it doesn't have to be a Wednesday at 9:00.
Correct. But here's this. What if a teacher is doing Zoom and says, hey, we're going to have a 10-minute work break? Turn off your video, go into your Flipgrid, spend the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to be here. If anybody needs help, come back to the Zoom. You could use them in tandem, or you could say, hey, I'm going to schedule a topic for tomorrow. You have 2 days to complete it. Find a time that works for you. Because the reality with distance learning is schedules are a little bit different for families. Working parents and guardians, and access to the tools and technology looks different for everybody. So shifting even timelines is one way we can empower people with the tool, right?
Right. Now, one thing I wanted to ask was, I know that, everyone's struggling with distance learning, but I think in particular, high school students having a really hard time. Keeping them focused, keeping them actually engaged at all is really tough, from what I understand. How can Flipgrid perhaps help with that?
Yeah. So we hear stories every day about how educators are using it. And when I think about my own personal friends who are teaching high school, and that's a delicate time in life. A lot of living is happening in those years. But I come back to sharing examples of our good friend Jaritza Vijalba, who's doing the Ask Yaritza series on Flipgrid right now. And she is a para-collaborative educator out of Brooklyn, New York, working with like age 16 to 20. So students who might have flexible ability in their schooling, might be working full-time, and she is connecting authentically with them. And they're using a lot of conversations about diversity, race, social justice issues, real issues that a lot of folks are talking about and dealing with right now, and making opportunity for them to create and share their authentic life and their learning in the process. And I think there's a time and space for just life conversations, especially in high school. I think about my own high school, the conversations I was having with friends authentically, and then what was I doing in class? But there's a lot of life happening in school right now, too, if you think about it. And being open to that conversation. My goodness, she might be using a piece of literature or a poem. For example, she has this topic. She has a whole playlist, and you all can go and use these topics. But here in the States, we just came through election season, and she has a topic called "What Does America Mean to Me?" But she's asking folks to read "Let America Be America" again by Langston Hughes, and then asks them, what does it mean to you? But who are you? They get to share their unique identity, right? And in a time where those conversations are real and relevant to students and their identity as they're growing and learning, how does that fit into the conversation too? And the reason this is important to me is because it comes back to every student in our learning community is a unique individual to value, to respect, to connect with. It's not just a student in a little box in a video call or a student sitting in a chair in a classroom. Every unique thing that makes them adds value to our community, to our learning community. So especially in high school and beyond, using the tool to foster those connections is one way Flipgrid could empower. If those conversations feel private or students don't want them to be public, but it is an academic something somebody assigns, hey, use that moderation feature. And then that teacher can make that connection with the student. And again, the last point on this is simply, when you know somebody, that authentic connection, that's a foundation that you learn on, right? And I did that with my first grade students. Hey, what do you like to learn about? What do you like to do? What makes you you? And let's use that to drive the learning forward.
That's awesome. I feel like a bobblehead. I'm just like, boom, 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 boom. Yes.
And you said some things that hit really close to home. So for example, what we're hearing coming out of the pandemic research right now, and that's students, if they feel connected to their teacher, if they feel that their teacher is listening and understanding and hearing them, they are more likely to engage.
Yeah.
And so you hit the nail on the head. When a student leaves a moderated or a non-moderated, right, an open video or a response, to make sure that you as the educator are taking the time to respond and reply privately or as part of the group in either the text comments or the video comments is really powerful, and allowing other students to kind of respond to that too. But just knowing that they're being heard will change the game for a student, especially in this time. I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Well, I was just going to say, I had a conversation with Andrew Easton about this. And to be honest, we both ended in tears when we were realizing and just kind of reflecting on the magnitude. And oh my God, I probably will start crying right now. What teachers and students have experienced over the last 6 to 8 months and beyond, and what potentially could continue on for the next 1 to 2 years. We don't know. Those connections, teachers might not ever know the impact of what they did for a student or the way staying connected mattered. We might not know those things for many, many years. But if we project forward and think back on what this is that we've all just experienced or what we're coming through or what we will come through, it's changed everything, right? But on a human level, right? Not me as a teacher, I'm a lifelong learner. Every student in my learning community is a young person growing up, becoming a lifelong learner. It comes back to relationships. Always, always, always. And so it's interesting to hear you say that because I really haven't dug into a lot of the research yet. But hearing you say that is not surprising because the connection, the human connection, and not only heart, height, mental health, wellness, feeling like somebody is out there that I can ping back off of,
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think that's just, it's so important. And, as someone who loved Flipgrid as a tool before the pandemic, it's evolved. I mean, in the last 6 months, the Flipgrid team has, I think, really listened and possibly, I'm suspecting, sped up some things on a roadmap to bring us some of the cool new features that have come out.
And truly, to say sped up the roadmap, everything is inspired by community feedback. And every update, every new feature is built with community feedback in mind. One of the newest things being, hey, can you speed up the selfie process when you're submitting a video? So now they can either use that first second that's automatically captured as the selfie video. They can click and have like a text on screen for a name tag instead. Select a frame or still just go and create that selfie. But some of the things regarding, oh my gosh, I think about the text comments. The new feature of text comments can make conversation even more engaging. And historically, Flipgrid was a video communication tool, right? But now the ability for folks to provide, oh my gosh, if it's feedback, quick praise, a reflection, that's an empowering shift. That was because of community feedback, right? I think of tools, Brenda and Shannon, I think of tools like the immersive reader that are built into Flipgrid that are absolutely empowering, but transformative, and people might not know about it. When I'm doing a PD, I always ask, hey, has anybody ever seen this little icon? And friends who are looking at Flipgrid are familiar with it. It's that little blue icon of a book and a speaker that's called the Immersive Reader. And it is a Microsoft learning tool that is non-stigmatizing. It's available for anybody who wants to click on that button. And it is there to provide visual supports, audio supports. There are inspiring, creative tools inside of it. You can change, goodness gracious, the playback speed, have it read out loud, go in and change the font size, change the contrast. You can go in and have a picture dictionary, a line focusing tool. But one of the ones I'm so proud to say, there's a translation tool inside the Immersive Reader as well. So I taught in a school that was 87% English learner, right? First graders, pre-readers, emerging readers, or students who might not have yet acquired any of the English language, or had a language of preference. And there's a translation tool that's translate a Flipgrid prompt in over 70 languages. So think about including community and families and the way that the Immersive Reader just empowers people, and it's built right into Flipgrid. Other things I think of that really truly are sort of like tips and tricks and tools to increase or speed up workflow or productivity for educators is like when you're playing back a video that students have submitted, toggle that playback speed and I always listen to podcasts at 3 times speed. So you can listen to a student's video. I'm going to click on one, my own, and pause it so we don't get that audio bit, but you can slow it down to like a slower speed, 0.75, increase 1 time speed, 1.5, 2 times the speed. And those are just little things that are built into the platform that change everything, right?
Those are huge. You hit two that I love talking about. I love showing off the immersive reader when I talk about Flipgrid. I love showing off the languages because I usually have someone throw out, I'm like, what's the primary non-English language at your school? And sometimes it's, it's Mandarin, or I had a school that was like, I had a high Turkish community that we were working with. And I was like, great, boom. And literally these teachers' minds were blown. And I said, imagine, so right now we've only been talking about Flipgrid in a teacher-student context. But what if your shorts video that you put out was a welcome to parents or getting them familiar and showing the kids how to access that immersive reader where the transcript, right, or any instructions that you're putting in the video, because I think you can put a shorts into your topic as well as the video into your topic. So any text that you write can either transcript, and the transcript can be translated, not the video itself, but the transcript, not the closed captions. I mean, the closed captions aren't translated, but the transcripts can be translated, but also any text. So as long as you write your instructions, students that are having a hard time reading English because that's not their primary language, you're now giving them the academic advantage that you wouldn't have been giving them before, right? That you would have made them kind of had to listen and read in English, which is not their primary language. Now for parents, as building that community, they're now getting the same information in their native language and can now support their students, because it's not that they don't know how, it's that you didn't make it accessible ahead, to them before. There was a barrier.
That's yes, exactly. So think about going beyond 4 walls of a classroom or a building. And we are really truly connected around the world. So the world is your classroom, and empowering people literally with the click of a button. An immersive reader is fully embedded throughout Flipgrid. It's even available in the text comments, so they can click on that little button and see the immersive reader as an option to engage that way as well. So yeah, it's one of my favorite things too. And talk about a few tools, like there's a captioning feature, right? So educators can determine if they want to use closed captioning on the video. There's a way to edit captions, download those transcriptions, like all of these tools that are built in that folks just might not be aware of.
I love it.
Wow, how powerful.
One other example that really has been very inspiring to me is we see a lot of folks in the deaf and hard of hearing community who are using Flipgrid to empower the ways students, or even they themselves as the educator, sharing. I think of an incredible educator, Matt Jenkins, over in the UK. He wrote this incredible blog about using Flipgrid in his community as a deaf educator with students. We created this sign language sticker pack that's available inside the Flipgrid camera, so students can sign as a response, whether it's on camera or using those stickers. I think of an incredible example from a teacher named Stacey Kennedy, who uses Flipgrid augmented reality QR codes as a teacher in the deaf and hard of hearing community, where her students might be creating comic books and illustrating comic books, and then they stick that Flipgrid AR QR code on the page. And when you scan it, the students are signing their book. And these examples, I mean, they make my heart so happy because, again, every person shares or communicates or learns or showcases their learning in different ways. And these are all ways you can use Flipgrid to empower that unique voice and showcase it too.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about giving me goosebumps, and like, you're just like, I'm all in. Like, I think this is one of the most powerful tools that I've seen in education in my career as an educator. And I can't get enough of it. I want to, so if there's if you are out there, teachers out there listening, And Ann is saying things like sticker packs and the video where you can write on the video screens and things like that. Click on over to our YouTube channel, and Ann's going to demonstrate some of those cool features where you'll be able to see it. I know Brenda has a couple more questions for Ann as we wrap up the podcast version here.
Both of you had already shared some great books with us, but I was wondering, Ann, if there is anything in particular that maybe has made an impact on you, either personally or professionally, that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about the examples folks are sharing in the community every day, and every chance I get to say I'm inspired by an educator, I will, because I truly believe the heart of an educator is bringing our world forward, right? Every student learning something is going to grow up and contribute in all these unique ways, and celebrating that. And in light of very serious events and very serious conversations that have been happening on a global scale, not only due to health pandemic, but conversations about race and equity and justice and recognizing and celebrating diversity. I've learned so much engaging in conversations with my own PLN, with my friends, with my colleagues, with my families. And I've dug into the Zaretta Hammond book, Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. So that's something that is constantly on my desk. I'm always digging into it. I mentioned a good friend and fellow educator, Jaritza Vijalba. If you want to click on that featured collection in the Discovery Library, ask Jaritza, and she's got all kinds of topics related to culturally responsive teaching, incredible resources in Discovery from Langston League about, my goodness gracious, pop culture PD, focusing on decolonization or Ode to Black Gotham with respect to works of educators around the world, the things that Erica Buddington is doing there. I think about other ways, specialty teachers are empowering their students. And another book I just got and cannot wait to dig into, Catherine Finch and Teresa Hoover, it's called Pass the Baton. And they talk about empowering music students. I'm the daughter of a French horn player, and I grew up listening to classical music because my dad has played the French horn for over 30 years. And Teresa, specifically in the book, talks about the ways she's using Flipgrid to empower her music students. And it's not just a core subject that folks are using Flipgrid for, but what about outside the box ways and physical education? My sister was an adaptive PE teacher. My mom was a special ed teacher. So I think about how can we empower everyone? So those are two books that I'm currently reading right now, and would definitely just encourage people to get connected on social. We really, truly are better together. I have a whole world of friends I can ask questions to, a whole community of folks sharing ideas and examples with Flipgrid, and a place to go for community and connection when I'm feeling like my own little virtual space in the world just wants to connect with somebody, right? So definitely get connected, because we are always better together.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Those are great.
So how do people get in touch with you? If they want to follow you on Twitter, or what's your call sign?
Well, of course, you can always find me at Flipgrid or with the hashtag flipgridforall. But across all social, you'll find me at Ann Kozma 723. And please get connected. I will follow back, and I would love to help in any way that I can.
I can say that's a true statement, because Ann, when I have questions, I know I just tweet it and I tag you and you respond right away. Thanks for sharing that, Ann. And the other book that you referenced, or I referenced, was Joe and Kristen Merrill's book, The Interactive Class, which is another one that I've really enjoyed. Honestly, this is just a sneaky way for us to get book reviews. So thanks for sharing those.
I love, of course, Joe and Kristen Merrill. That is a fantastic book. And if we're talking Joe and Kristen Merrill, they have another book coming out all about Flipgrid. So it's awesome and full of ideas for everyone.
Well, thanks for everything. Thanks for sharing all your tips and tricks with us. And again, if anybody wants to get a hold of Ann, everything will be in our show notes and on our website. So don't hesitate to check that out. And now there was a teaser because when we were getting ready, I know you can't share any specifics, but there's always new stuff coming up on the Flipgrid horizon for educators.
Okay, so I cannot give away specifics, but Microsoft just participated in something called Fix, Hack, Learn, and it's a week of learning and exploring possibilities. And the things that Team Flipgrid shared during this week about new things coming to Flipgrid or ideas directly received from the community. Hey, I'd love to see this. Hey, I want this. Hey, what about this? Oh my gosh. It's kind of like an ask and you shall receive. These are game changers that will be coming to Flipgrid, some sooner rather than later. And I saw a tease of something that people are waiting for. And oh my gosh, I can't say it, but my mind was blown and I'm beyond excited.
So how would people hear when that hits?
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll definitely share on social, of course. We share a ton of information at the blog as well. So if you have never head to blog.flipgrid.com, at the top of the screen, there's a little button that says updates. You literally could click on that, find out what was released in October, what was released in September, what was released in August. And that's a great place to find information. We definitely are sharing on social on our own YouTube site, youtube.com/Flipgrid. There's a ton of resources, but we'll be noisy about it. We will be noisy. And not only on the blog is that update section, but we release a monthly newsletter that shows upcoming events. So tons of new things are shared on the blog. Again, just blog.flipgrid.com and you'll see all of this information there.
And whatever just inspires you to go, just check it out. And I would also say that if you're interested in becoming a Flipgrid ambassador or earn your badges, definitely check that out. The higher you go, the more insider information you get. I know I've been asked to participate in some of the beta just before it's released and give some feedback, and that's been really exciting.
That might be one way to have early access to some of this.
I don't want to give away the farm, but
our new ambassador class is going to be coming within the next few months. So now is a perfect time to become a student voice ambassador. And that information was just shared in the newsletter as well. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, Shannon. That's a great idea.
Yeah. If this is something that, you're passionate about, I would say go make it official and get in the club. Because once you're in, not only are you part of the community, but you're part of the network, the internal network, and you just grow your PLN like you were talking about. So thanks, Ann. I love talking with you.
Of course. And friends, I believe, here we go. I think now if we want to do a little capture for this bonus material, I've got a few things I'd love to share that you're welcome to share however you want with the MyTech Toolbelt community. I mentioned the Discovery Library, right? This is a database. I mean, it's like a treasure at the end of the rainbow that people find that they might not be familiar with. And it is built into Flipgrid. So you'll notice across the top that word discovery. And when they click on it, it is a database of resources. We have some spotlights across the top from Langston League, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Minecraft Education, Made by Dyslexia, Wonderopolis. Folks can find a topic of the day, a wonder of the day. But I just have to click on all of these partners and let you take a peek. Incredible resources from California State Parks, Minecraft EDU, the Equal Justice Initiative, Anti-Defamation League Education, BBC Learning, Adobe, Bunsey, Infinite Dance Flow. Check this out. This is an awesome LA-based nonprofit professional dance company focusing on inclusion and innovation with dance. And oh my gosh, I mean, talk about getting inspired. I come in here And I click on some of these, I dig in, I just explore. Amplifier is a design lab sharing, concepts about all kinds of things through the power of like visual design, right? So folks might not know this type of stuff is fully accessible for everybody. And one of the featured partners I love to share is Made by Dyslexia. So not only can you use these topics with your students, I think about how can I drive my own professional learning? Or how can a learning community or administrator or a coach top down share resources that will be transformative for educators? And Made by Dyslexia is on a mission to empower every teacher on the planet to spot and support and celebrate the beautiful power of dyslexia and think about it as a superpower. So you have interviews from folks like Sir Richard Branson, Keira Knightley, Chef Jamie Oliver, right? Learning about dyslexia as a superpower. And I think about this as an educator because I didn't have training on that in my classroom. I might not have known how to spot the signs or supported a student with dyslexia. So within Discovery, you have access at your fingertips to incredible resources and supports. I think about things like right here, the Pacer Center, creating a world without bullying. There's a program called I Can Help, empowering students as change makers. How do you deal with digital wellness? What does it mean to be a digital first responder? How do you use digital for good? So it's a database of incredible, ready to use topics. And not only do you have all of that partner content, you'll find trending topics, contents that are identified just for you. And then our team curates featured collections. So whether it's Native American and Indigenous heritage, I mentioned that Ask Jaritza series, voting and civic engagement, incredible resources from like the Roald Dahl Company, sharing creative ways to explore literature and writing, accessibility awareness, family engagement. We have our own on-demand PD series, conversations about race, equity, and justice, digital citizenship, conversation starters. So if you're just getting started, definitely feel free to click on something like conversation starters. And Shannon, you mentioned that backpack topic, right? So what's in your bag? And Jess Boyce shared it, said, if you have 5 items that showcase you, what are they? But that's a cool conversation starter that is a foundation for community to grow on. So I love sharing Discovery. This is just a little bit for your community. Again, they just click on that button and they have access to all of this at their fingertips, and inspiring creators, or do a general search by subject, by audience, or type in your own search query and literally have ready to use topics at your fingertips.
And I think, and this goes back to, this could be, I mean, I have not done a search query where it's come back with 0. So there's so many things in there. This is also what used to be called the Disco Library.
Hey.
I think, so if you were familiar with the Disco Library, it didn't go away. It just became Discovery. And you really can, just to kick you off, if you're not using Flipgrid, start here. If you're trying to figure out something new or a different topic, or you want to do a Flipgrid as a discussion board and you don't want to create one, or you're having a challenge, drop it in here and just search for it, and you can see how many times it's been used. So obviously more popular ones, but there's some that are less popular that are going to be perfect for what you need it to accomplish.
Yeah, so definitely utilize that search. Also, you mentioned what's most popular. I love to tell people, just click on that column header. So that what's in your bag topic you used, it has generated 2 years and 8 months worth of engagement. It's been used over 8,500 times. So you can find, hey, these are what other educators are using to spark conversation. Yeah, and so I would just say go and dig in, because it's as simple as literally clicking on a topic. And I love using the Met as an example. This one in particular about making mummies, fascinated by ancient civilizations and history. Hey, that's your upper elementary and middle school social science concepts, right? But check this out. Here are resources from the Met about their artifacts from the museum. And if you can't travel there, if you can't visit, all educators need to do is literally click that add topic button, or they could even save it to a collection for future use. And it grabs that topic template and all of the resources. And it's literally like the Met handing you content to use in your learning community.
How powerful is that? And if you needed to change something, if you needed to change a word or change anything, it's totally customizable once it's in your
fully
control.
Customizable. Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Hey, one more bonus.
Yeah.
Did you notice this button in the top corner of the screen? Help. Our help center is fully embedded throughout Flipgrid. So if you are getting started and you need some help, literally type it in and it'll show you on screen what's going on. You can navigate within your admin environment, but have all of that help on screen as well. Any questions you have, literally at your fingertips inside Flipgrid.
That's so powerful. So powerful. And one of the things we didn't talk about was it is lockdown private if you're using the Microsoft 365 environment, a Google environment, but there are ways to share out with parents and guests in the community out as well. So I think that's something that has kind of come up a couple times. Well, what if I want to share this with a parent or somewhere else?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. And this is just within, I'm doing a sample topic right now. And so the permissions inside your access control determines who you want to have access and who you're going to share it with, right? So in order to remain within your Microsoft or Google domain, you simply choose that student email option. And all you have to do is type in your domain, and then anybody who has access to that Microsoft or Google school email domain, once you share the join code with them, they would be able to authorize in. For younger scholars, if they don't use a student email, you definitely can take advantage of the student username. You can even upload a CSV file to speed up the process or manually roster students. So it can be as simple as a first name, last initial, and a 2-character username. And then the student would utilize that to authorize in. But Shannon, you just mentioned this guest password. So you can invite families or guests or your administrator or the mayor of your town or a local expert or an author utilizing that password option. And they'll be able to join that topic to engage as a guest with your community.
That just seems very, very powerful. If you were talking about, like you said, civics, and you are able to get the mayor or a congressman or a board member or something like that to come join. That's so powerful.
Right.
And then do you have a way to show within the recording session? So just as you're getting ready to record, the options that are available, because like split screen and the writing, and those are pretty new. The sticker features are pretty new. And I tried to explain to people, click the fallen down snowman that says options. Most people don't click those. It's one of those things where you just don't see it if you're not looking for it, even though it's right there in front of you.
So I'm going to stop my video here, but what I'm going to do is come into an example and I will demo for you what that looks like. So when you invite a student to join, they simply would authorize in with whatever way you want them to. As an educator within my environment, I have a shortcut. I can even just click record a response. So when I click record a response inside my educator admin, it'll pop up that screen. And so you're talking about these simple buttons right here, creative options like uploading a clip if you've app smashed in a different tool. I love this one, mirroring a video. Say you're reading text on screen and you want to mirror the text, right? Or a language fluency, and you want to do a discussion or dialogue, practicing that language acquisition, talking about author's purpose, character point of view. You can get super creative with the mirror option, right? Additionally, muting having a silent film, paper slide video, background audio. There's even a built-in screen recorder, right? So many powerful options just nested right there. But you're referencing the camera effects, right? And I love demoing. Change the theme or tone of your video simply by clicking on different tools, showing all of these different ways that you could have the camera engage. So many possibilities, right? Or not use them at all. Other things that you can do is have different frames that would be on the screen. Likewise, additional effects like the emojis. So we'll see how much of a lag my computer has right now, but you see the emojis start to populate, and across the top, different categories that you can choose from: people, accessories, music, reactions, those magical creatures, etc., as you toggle through. Likewise, just keep clicking on that magic wand to find more features. Text on screen. You have all of these creative fonts. You can customize the colors, shrink them down, move them around the screen, draw and annotate on the screen as well. Choose a color, choose the thickness. And that drawing tool pairs well with these board options, right? So if I wanted to have a board feature, now I have the capability of choosing a split screen to have as much or as little text or side-by-side elements, or disable that, and even uploading photos, right? So what if it's a 3D shape hunt in your environment and you capture pictures of, I see parallel lines on the playground, or I see what is this called? It's a cylinder, my chapstick, right? Because people always have chapstick on hand. Upload your own photographs. So all of these are just built in to the Flipgrid camera. And again, this is like where the magic happens. They can be as simple or as sophisticated as you want it to be. And then, of course, click red to record and go through that process to submit it.
That's before you get out of the screen, up in the top right corner there's two little icons, a book and then a sticky note.
Yeah.
Will you talk about those two? Because again, those are two that I think are powerful, but not, people don't take advantage of them.
So the book icon is just the topic card. When you hover over it, you'll notice you can show the topic or hide the topic. And this is just a reminder of what the prompt is. Another one is that sticky note, and educators can enable or disable sticky notes. But really, truly, what these are just cue cards. And you can add your text, your talking points, copy and paste a paragraph if you want. Some folks put it in front of their face so they don't get distracted by looking at their face. Some folks move it up and put it right under the camera, so you have a different sort of eye contact where the card is on screen. You can have multiple if you want, and this is just built-in supports within the Flipgrid camera to help you as you create a response. And again,
I think that is so powerful.
Right? And use them however you wish, or just kind of remove them from the screen too.
Yeah, because they don't get recorded. I think that's what I think people worry about. They don't get recorded as part of the recording. It's just your prompts to keep you on topic. And as a student, to keep you on point. That's amazing.
I mean, you'll see, let's see how quickly this happens, right? Even within the camera effects, you have the ability to mirror them. You have the ability to duplicate them. So speeding up the process, I mentioned I'm a former first grade teacher. So if I started creating an array on screen just to demonstrate addend plus addend equals sum, utilizing the duplicate feature, I could fill up this screen with unicorns really, really fast, but it's a creative way I'm demonstrating my mathematical thinking, right?
Yeah. And that's all can happen while you're recording as well, right?
Absolutely.
You can do all of those effects.
Yeah,
while
so
you're recording.
You can set it up before, you can record, you can click record, and it'll give you that little 3, 2, 1 countdown. Hey, my first number is 3. And then come in, and you have the ability to, right? I'm just going to click add more, and notice I'm back in the camera. And what if I want to add another element? I'm just doing a very quick demonstration. Hey, let's go with some smiley faces, right? So I'm going to add another smiley face, another smiley face, another smiley face. Oops, I didn't click that, right? So here's my next segment, because all I did was add more, plus another 3, right? And I can go in and start creating examples that are as simple or as sophisticated. I can drag and rearrange. And this is just the power of the camera doing whatever you want it to when you click that add more button, right?
I feel like, again, that's such a powerful tool that I would imagine quite a few of your users don't know is there. And that's so powerful.
Yeah. And I love, like, you can do this while you are writing, while you are annotating. So, maybe I want a really thick line and I start to, hey, 3 plus 3. And this, of course, is going to get a little bit sloppy, but what is it, right? I can move this around. I can use it as I want, and literally just go through the process of creating. And let's say, hey, I don't like that first second. I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to move this out of the way, right? Quick move it. Hey, take my selfie and go through the process of submitting it. So once I submit it, you'll see it just goes through that process. The student also, if the teacher enables, I could submit a link. I could add a title. Those are all ways you can customize it. And then you click it and, hey, this is from the educator side, what it looks like when a student response comes in. I can go in, I can begin to explore it. I can add feedback. I can add video or written comments. I can go in and see the captions and edit the captions. So many ways to engage, even provide like a rubric feedback criteria, video feedback, writing. I mean, so many possibilities.
It's so powerful. Thank you for sharing all of those pieces, because I think those are those hidden gems in Flipgrid. There's that immersive reader button.
Yeah, I just clicked on it too. So, I mean, again, like changing the voice speed, changing the voice selection. I'm just going to click on a few buttons to show folks. Changing, decreasing the font size, making it more visually accessible, increasing or decreasing spacing. Comic Sans gets a hard rap, but it's a very visually accessible font for folks. Contrasting a theme, like a light or a dark theme for visual supports. This grammar options, I love sharing, because as a first grade teacher, I talked about nouns, verbs, and adjectives all the time. You can go in and customize the colors. So let's say on an anchor chart, I always use a specific color for my verbs. Well, I can change the color and have all of my verbs be green now, right? So ways that you can customize if needed based on whatever your preference is. And then these were some of those other features we talked about, like line focus, which imagine how this just supports incredible ways to use this. A chunk of text, 2 lines of text, 3 lines of text, enabling or disabling that picture dictionary, and then you reference that translation feature. So I love using the example. I have spent the last year over in Miami, and the question I've received a lot is, do you have Haitian Creole? It's in there, right? And I'm choosing to do the entire document. And now I can toggle between whatever language and the original language, and it's just there as a support. I'm going to put this back into English and just show you so many possibilities, right? And when you start to click on a few things, let's see, hey, there's the picture dictionary, right? To provide that support. So I love this, not only for English learners, emerging readers, just support. And friends, anytime you see this icon, that's the immersive reader, and it's just there for whoever wants to use it.
Parents, students, other educators. Wow.
Yep, absolutely.
It's incredible. And it's free.
It's free. It's free.
It's mind-boggling.
It's free. It's all free.
And Immersive Reader is I think one of the most amazing Microsoft accessibility features that I've seen. I mean, and I've been using Microsoft products for a long time, and I I can say I've struggled with some things, but the immersive reader is not one that I have any regrets for because it is embedded throughout almost all Microsoft products. And when I
Wow.
saw it come to Flipgrid, I was like, yes. And that was a little inkling of what was to come, right? When we saw that happen, it was powerful. It was so powerful. And it is a game changer. And you alluded to this. Every student has a learning spectrum that we're on, right? And so although some of us or some of our kiddos might not be fully diagnosed with something, the ability for every person to customize that experience. And I got this from someone who said, everyone has a cell phone, right? So let's everybody put their cell phone in the middle of the room, and then I'm just going to dish out cell phones. And what's the problem? They're all cell phones. Like, oh, some of them have passwords. Yeah, some of them don't have the apps you need. It's the customization of your cell phone that makes it unique to you. And that's when someone hands you their cell phone and says, "Here, just make a call using mine," and you're like, "I don't even know where your button is." Like, you don't keep your button in the same place that I do. The fact that we've personalized a cell phone experience the way that you've given and Microsoft has given Flipgrid a customization experience. That means I can make it my own. I can make it meet my needs. I can adjust the audio. I can adjust the video. Yeah. I can, if I'm visually impaired, if I'm auditory, I have all of these things. If my parents don't speak English and they want to know what I'm working on, boom, I just change it and they can hear it. Like the power of that for every person is, in my opinion, one of the most spectacular things that can be brought to an educational tool. And so I thank you, and I thank your team, and I thank Microsoft and all of the folks that are working so hard to get these tools and these new features that are going to come out soon based on the community's response and understanding that Flipgrid, like any product, has, not everything that we recommend or that we ask for is going to come to fruition because there's a mission and vision and purpose that Flipgrid will remain pure to. But if it's within the scope of the mission and it can be dreamed and you guys have the talent to put it in there, why the heck not, man? It's powerful.
Well, and I'm so proud. Microsoft's mission is to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. The mission of Flipgrid is to empower every person to share their voice and respect the diverse voices of others. And my why as an educator was empower authentic voice for an authentic audience. The way those three blend together is this beautiful fruition of what I've done as an educator and the work I'm lucky to get to do to serve the education community. And as we build forward with our community, it is about empowering voice and respecting voices. And I cannot wait to see, because I'm inspired every day by what educators are doing. They're already doing incredible things, but as some of these new things come soon, I just can't wait to see again the new ways that educators will empower their students' voice.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
This has been such a blast. I'm so glad that you asked me to do this.
I'm so glad you came because normally we would have seen you back in March when we would have all been together at Q, and we would have been able to be with you live at ISTE again and been able to catch up with you. And so I'm so glad that we had this kind of one-on-one time where we weren't sharing you with anyone else. You I feel very, very privileged that we have this opportunity.
That feeling is mutual. I feel lucky too. It makes me so glad when I get to connect with friends because you're friends, right? We're all like colleagues and professionals, but really you're friends because I know you're passionate about the same things I am. And I love getting small moments to really connect.
That's so powerful.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're out. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It was so fun talking to Ann Kozma. She was incredible. She's got so much energy. And I hope you have found this episode to be as not only interesting, informative, but just dynamic. And it makes me want to just jump right in and try it. So hopefully, if you feel the same, please check out our show notes on this episode, and we will have the links to everything. We'll have the YouTube link, and we'll have all the YouTube for Flipgrid and their website, and Ann Kozma's contact information if you want to get in touch with her directly. She would love that. And if you have any questions for us, please let us know. Email us, Shannon at mytechtoolbelt.com, Brenda at mytechtoolbelt.com.
Thank you. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast and review us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere where you listen to podcasts. Please give us a review. We really appreciate that.
And we're out.